This is a generational heist for the Rams. A star DB just released from his team today, and the Rams are on him. A new report shows that the Rams are linked to him and how he will impact this defense for the 2025 season. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Finehirsh, and before I get into it, literally right before I just started recording this video, we just hit 3,600 subscribers. So Josh and I just want to thank everybody for their support as we are on the road to 4K by training camp. I believe that is possible. Got around 6-7 weeks left to do that. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. Turn your notifications to all so that you do not miss any daily new Rams Digest videos covering all things Rams. And now to the big story of today. We have Jaire Alexander getting released by the Packers earlier this morning on the day that I am filming this. And we're going to get into how the Rams are linked to him and why he is a good fit and a better fit than Jalen Ramsey, according to this article here. As well as we have combined articles today from Rams Wire as well. So we're going to head on into that right now. And heading into the 2025 season, the Los Angeles Rams are still in need of a cornerback to add to their defense. There has been some speculation that the Rams could pursue a trade for Jalen Ramsey. However, discussions have seemed to quiet down recently. Additionally, when asked about the Rams cornerback group, Sean McVay did say that he does feel good with the current situation that they have going on for them right now. And yeah, basically this is a really, really good start for the Rams. They are in a good spot cornerback-wise, at least they believe they are, and I do believe that they are in a decent spot cornerback-wise. Again, that is one of the spots on the roster that could use some work in order to improve there, and that is important, if the Rams do want to be able to contend for a Super Bowl, getting that elite corner like we've been talking about, somebody who's able to really help out that defense, be a veteran leader as well, something that's really lacking in that cornerback room, as this article is by Turf Show Times, as we're going to have some Rams Wire stuff coming up later. And that could mean one of several things. It's possible that McVay is publicly downplaying the need for a cornerback in order to help with negotiations for Ramsey. Conversely, trade talks for Ramsey have also really died down recently, and the Rams head coach is going to support the players on the roster, as any good coach would. And lastly, he could actually feel good about who the Rams have at the position. Any of these scenarios are a possibility. Yeah, I agree. Any of these scenarios are a possibility. The Rams cornerback room is not elite, but it's certainly not bad. Like, you're certainly not looking at the guys in the room thinking like, oh, this is one of the worst rooms in football. No, that's not the case. There are some teams that we're going to get into later on in this article where you can really think that that is one of the scenarios there. And for the Rams, it really isn't. They just don't really have that guy where it's like, oh, that guy you want guarding a Justin Jefferson, although that didn't seem to matter in the playoffs at all. Or you want that guy guarding a CD Lamb, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin. Brandon Ayuk's going to be healthy. And Jackson Smith-Njigba's really come on for the Seahawks. You want someone to be able to stop him as well. So for this Rams team, I do believe it is important to grab another corner here in this offseason. And one thing that the Rams front office tends to do very well is not force anything and keep their options open. It's how they've approached the draft in recent years, and it is likely how they've approached the Ramsey trade negotiations. That approach has worked for the Rams in the past, and that's no different in their search for a top-level corner. On Monday morning today, the Green Bay Packers released cornerback Jaire Alexander, who will now be a free agent, and we have some more insight as to why he was released in the first place, which I believe is important to go over here from Albert Breer here on his X post from earlier this morning. And the Packers offer Jaire Alexander a reduced incentive-laden one-year deal that makes him a free agent in next year's offseason. Alexander turned it down, not liking the structure. Green Bay tried to trade him in March and during the draft, and that also failed. So now Jaire Alexander is a June free agent. And this is a really interesting report to go over. Incentive-laden pretty much means that the Packers were trying to really lower that guaranteed salary, which was going to be $16.1 million heading into this current season, and to try to make it more of an incentive-based deal, which I agree. If I'm Jaire Alexander, I'm trying to get some salary. I get it's going to be lower. We don't know exactly what number that is, how low they were going to go, how low they were going for the salary limbo right there, and it is important to note that Jaire Alexander does view himself as an elite corner. he really has been over these last few years in the NFL. And with Alexander now available, it might make more sense for the Rams to shift their focus to the 28-year-old cornerback than try to force a deal for Ramsey. Two major benefits of signing Alexander over trading for Ramsey would be that the Rams would have more control over contract structure, and most importantly, wouldn't have to give up any draft capital. And that's really key there. More key to me, though, is the contract structure, because the Rams, if you read that Albert Breer tweet, or ex-post, whatever we say nowadays, is you don't want to give him an incentive-based deal. Sure, you can add in a couple of incentives, but let's not make it super crazy incentive-based. For me, I have 1 year, $8 million. You know, the Rams do have $19 million in cap space right now that they can spend for this year. You don't want to use all that cap space, especially if you do sign someone else, maybe a linebacker, or you make a trade midway through the season. You're able to take in some more salary and not have to pay that tax bill for going over the salary cap mark. And with Alexander, I have a 1 year, $8 million deal. If you want to give him a couple incentives, they get it to $9 or $10 million, fine, but don't go super incentive based like the Packers did. And I want you to comment down below right now. If the Rams do go after Jaire Alexander, which it seems like they will, what do you think he should get from the Rams on the free agency market? I have 1 year, $8 million, maybe some incentives to get it to $9 or $10 million. Let me know down below in the comments. And the no draft capital point is very important as well. I agree. You don't need to spend any draft capital to get Jaire Alexander. And right now, he's probably the better player than Jalen Ramsey. Comment that down below as well. Who do you think is better overall right now? Not all time, because all time is definitely Ramsey. But right now, is it Jaire Alexander or Jalen Ramsey? Leave that down below in the comments. And while the Rams wouldn't have to give up a first-round pick to acquire Ramsey, giving up a third-round pick and receiving a late-rounder in return seems like a realistic package. Ooh, we went over that a little while ago, and I disagree. You all in the comments disagree. Jeremy Fowler disagrees from ESPN. I don't know about that. It's worth remembering that the Rams already gave up a fourth-round pick to move up for defensive lineman Ty Hamilton in this past draft. And yeah, that is very important to note for a Ramsey trade, because the Rams do have a fifth-rounder, and I think that a fifth and a seventh is probably good enough for Ramsey, and hopefully, if that trade does happen, the Rams don't have to eat much of Jalen Ramsey's guaranteed money, since the Dolphins are the ones that gave him that deal, kind of like in the Jared Goff deal, the Rams had to take a little bit of his contract, but for this one, since they gave him the contract, and they also had to attach a first to get off of it, but for this, the Dolphins should really have to maybe even attach a mid-round pick to Ramsey, just because that contract is not viewed very highly throughout the NFL right now. And Ramsey may not cost a lot in 2025, but the Rams would only be responsible for around $5.9 million. However, after 2025 is when Ramsey's contract gets complicated. He does have an out after 2025 with an $18.5 million dead cap penalty. And that's notable, as the Rams salary cap does hit $25 million in 26, $26.8 million in 2027, and $36.2 million in 2028, with 3 more void years for Ramsey. And that's key to know. Right now, the Rams are at $19 million. They're going to have some more free agents hitting in 2026, the big one there being Kyren Williams, and then 2027 and 2028 as well. So for Ramsey, you really do complicate your future decision-making as well, not just with that contract, with trading for him right now, but for who you're going to extend, who you're going to let go, to bring in for trades, draft pick-wise as well. That with a large contract in the NFL, just like in the NBA, it really does limit your decision-making a little bit, especially when that player is older and not necessarily in their prime as much. It's possible that the Rams and Ramsey could redo that contract to make it fit the Rams' timeline. Still, there's no guarantee that Ramsey would agree to a restructure or a new deal. Meanwhile, that's flexibility that the Rams would have with Alexander. Alexander was set to have a $24.3 million cap hit in 2014, but won't get close to that with a new deal. The former Packers quarterback has played in just 14 games over the last 2 years. That's going to take a hit on his value, and is one of the main reasons why the Packers released him. Yes, that is very, very important to note as well. 10 interceptions early on in his career, and now just 2 from the past 2 seasons. He really dealt with knee and shoulder injuries this past year, played in 7 games, a forced fumble, 7 passes defense, and he did miss the playoff game against the Eagles as well with those injuries. With Alexander, it hasn't been injuries have slowed him down on the field-wise. He's been fine on the field when he's been healthy. It's just he hasn't really been healthy enough to make a key impact or make a difference, really, throughout an entire season for a little bit. And those injury concerns are definitely quite important to know if you are the Rams looking to give out a potential multi-year deal to him. And if the Rams sign Alexander for somewhere between the Christian Fulton contract at $10 million and the DJ Reed contract at $16 million and incentivize it, they could make it work. Unlike other teams who might be interested, such as the Buffalo Bills, the Rams have $19.4 million in cap space. At the same time, if the Rams don't get Alexander, and instead he signs with a team like the Cowboys, it takes a team out of the Jalen Ramsey sweepstakes, a scenario that likely helps the Rams in negotiations with the Dolphins as it limits the trade options. Yeah, this is also a really important note to keep in mind here, because whoever signs Alexander is going to be most likely out of the Ramsey sweepstakes, which does help the Jalen Ramsey camp and the Dolphins find a trade partner, or it makes the Dolphins cut Ramsey in a little bit of an easier way. Again, the Cowboys, I have this written down here, the Cowboys have more cap space than the Rams, $32 million as well. The Raiders have been linked as well. They have $36 million, so that is already going to be more of a higher base guaranteed salary. Some other teams I think should be interested. The Commanders, outside of Mike Sammer, still don't really like too much of that defensive back room, $21 million. And the Bengals, surprisingly, this shocked me, have $27 million for this offseason, and then it gets a little scary later on with some of those big contracts. And the Bengals need all the help they can get defensively. So 4 on all those teams could be in on the Ramsey sweepstakes as well. So if you're the Rams, you're really worrying about the Cowboys, Raiders, and the Commanders, probably not the Bengals. I would say those other 3 teams are the main teams. And all those numbers are brought to us by Over the Cap for salary cap information. So for the Rams, you could sit out the Ramsey sweepstakes, get Jaire Alexander, or the other way around. Another team signs Jaire, most likely one of the other teams we've mentioned, and then you have an upper hand in the Ramsey sweepstakes right now. And comment down below, who do you think the Rams should go after, Jalen Ramsey or Jaire Alexander? I want to know. And make sure to like this video for breaking news, because this news did break today, and this is some of the first big news we've had in a while here in this NFL offseason. However, an argument could be made that the Rams should focus their attention on Alexander. Again, it wouldn't require draft capital, and the Rams would have more control over the contract structure. Alexander is also 2 years younger than Ramsey. While he's been hurt the last 2 years, when he's played, he's still been a top-level corner. Among quarterbacks with at least 350 snaps last season, Alexander was PFF's 8th-ranked corner. He allowed just 56% of his targets, which is ranked 16th. His PFF coverage grade, reception percentage, and passer rating allowed all would have led Rams cornerbacks. Alexander also outperformed Ramsey in all 3 categories. Yes, he did. I do believe Alexander is the better player. He's also going to be 3 years younger than Ramsey at season's end. He is technically 2 years younger since it's not 3 years apart. But we do also have a quote from a PFF writer talking about this situation as well. The Rams surprisingly didn't make any changes at cornerback this offseason. Sakema wrote, Darius Williams, 865, Kobe Durant, 843, and Akella Witherspoon, 598, played the most snaps at cornerback for the team last season, but none earned a PFF coverage grade above 62, and as we saw, Alexander would totally destroy those stats for any Rams player, and this is from PFF writer Trevor Sakema, as we have a second part of this quote as well. Alexander is the kind of veteran whom Los Angeles has been interested in before. The team traded for fellow star cornerback Jalen Ramsey in 2019, which proved a worthwhile addition. A move for Alexander wouldn't be as big of a splash, but it would be in the Rams' wheelhouse, PFF writer Trevor Sakema also writes there. And another thing to note for Alexander, he is 5'10", 196, a little bit smaller than Ramsey, who's 6'1", 208. Ramsey had 2 interceptions last year, 11 passes defense, and 60 tackles as well. So again, a better season, but hasn't really looked the same on the field despite all of Jaire Alexander's injuries. It is still possible that the Rams stand pat with who they have and ride into the season with the current cornerback group. With that said, the Rams have made additions this late in the offseason in the past. It was this time a year ago the Rams signed Akella Witherspoon and Demarcus Robinson in 2022. The Rams front office has done a good job in recent years when it comes to patience and remaining disciplined, and that's how they've approached the Jalen Ramsey situation, and it might pay off once again. The Rams have shown that they're not afraid to wait for the right move, and it's possible that that move is Jaire Alexander. I am a bit more swayed towards Jaire Alexander than Ramsey just because of that cap hit that Ramsey would have to have in that difficult contract negotiation that could ensue. And with Alexander, you have someone who's a couple years younger, who has performed better when healthy on the football field, and the Rams, they at least have some depth pieces. Witherspoon and all those other players, Darius Williams as well. they are good depth pieces to have. They're not bad NFL players. They're just not the level that Jaire Alexander could bring, that 1A corner who you're like, yeah, that's our leader. That's our guy. He can go man-to-man with the best receiver on some of the best NFL teams to look into. And we have a little quick note here from Rams Wire to get into about Alexander's overall health the last couple of years. And the pros and cons of adding Alexander are obvious. He's elite when he's healthy, but he's expensive and very injury-prone. Alexander is only 28, but has only played 14 games over 2 seasons. And he tallied 10 interceptions early on in 5 seasons, but just has 1 in his last 2, which is very, very important to note. So it is a bit of a two-edged sword adding Alexander. You may not get the ball production, but his coverage grades all pan out really well, and you really hope he can stay healthy. If he can play 14, 15 games, that's a win for you and be healthy for the playoffs for some teams who are looking to add him this offseason. And that is it for this episode of Rams Digest. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, so you do not miss any daily new Rams Digest videos covering all things Rams. Comment down below, Ramsey or Alexander, who's better? Who would you rather have? As well as an Alexander contract prediction. I have 1 year, $8 million. Incentivize it to get to $10 million because I don't believe he's worth more than a 1 year deal based on that injury history. Like this video if you haven't already. I've been your host, Joshua Finehirsh. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Rams Digest, and I'll see you soon for another. And have a great rest of your day.